So let's now talk about big mistakes. When people finally think, okay, I'm going to let go of this identity, I'm going to stop worrying about whether I can do this, make this change or not, and they actually take that leap into making a career change. What would you say are the biggest mistakes that you've noticed that people make when making a career change, Jo?
I think one of the ones I see often is that people try to change career on their own. And they try to change career with the information that's in their head. And they think, if I just sit here for long enough and crunch all the information in my head, I'm going to have this moment and ping, here the career change is going to come. And I think that actually the answers to the career change is out there in the world for people, and actually engaging with other people, whether that's for support as you're going through all the fears and things we just mentioned, Jane, and all the emotional stuff that can come up in career change, but also to get information about what are the different careers out there that might be right, and what are people actually doing in those careers? How are they spending their time? What are they doing all day? What skills are they using? And all the many things you need to understand to actually figure out whether something's going to be right for you. So I think doing careers on your own is a big thing, a big mistake that lots of people make. Another one I think that comes up quite often in the first conversations I have with people is people often say to me, I'm going to need to study. I'm going to need to go back to university and do some study or some other qualifications. And I kind of explain that people are starting to think with the how before they've figured out the what. Really, you need to work out what you want to do for your career and then find out how you're going to make the steps to get there. Because for some careers, the assumption might be that you need to go back to university or you need to study to make that career change. Or just because you're changing career, you might assume that's the case. When actually, when you go and speak to people in those careers, you might find out that you don't need to. Or you could do qualifications and training on the job rather than doing it before. And so actually focusing on what first can be a really good way of approaching it a bit differently. What about you, Jane? What are some big mistakes you see people going through?
I always think that it's important. I mean, everything you've said is 100% right. You've got to have information before you make any decisions. But also you need to ask yourself, why do you want to make a career change? I think a big mistake is to make a change because you're not happy about something, okay, rather than knowing what it is that you want to do next. Because if it's a push away from what you've got at the moment, and it could be toxic work culture or too much work, or you're feeling burnt out, or you don't like your boss, or it could be so many different things that you're just disgruntled about or not happy about in your current work environment. So you want to escape, and you think that what you want is a career change when actually you need to be out of a specific environment. That's something that you really need to think about as well. So identifying what the push factor is when you're in your career and you're feeling unhappy. The easy thing is to think, oh, I need a different job, then everything will be fixed. But it could be that you're with people with whom you don't share your values, or maybe there's a boss that's over demanding. Maybe it's the toxic work culture. Maybe there's a bully who's making you feel unhappy. There are lots of different things that could be happening. So think about whether you're making a change because it's a push, or if there is something that's pulling you. Now, this is really interesting because remember back in 2009, Jo, and we were working together, and you were in market research, and it didn't feel that satisfying. It was fine, earned you money, and that was all good, but there was something that was kind of missing, and that there was a pull for you. So you weren't running away, you were being pulled towards something, and that was to do more meaningful work, which led you to the not-for-profit sector, yeah? And that was the right move for you because your career anchor is probably, much like mine, dedication to a cause or service, needing to make a big difference. So I think if you think what's pulling you, identify your career anchor and think, is that truly pulling me in a certain direction? Then you'll be able to make that change knowing that it's the right thing for you and you're not really running away.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think it's that, is it the job or is it the career? And for some people, they've moved from one job to another job to another job in the same career area. And that's when they realize, actually, it's something about the career that's not right. And that's what's kind of leading them to realize, actually, it's the career change that's needed, because it's not changing if I'm changing jobs. It's got to be a bigger thing that changes. But I love that sense of pull. How much more exciting is it towards something than just to be pushed out of it for now?
Yeah, that's right. Because I mean, it's so many different things, because it could be, what about the industry? What about the job function? What about the people? What about the location as well? Oh, I had one client who really liked nice air-conditioned offices. Okay, like state-of-the-art air-conditioned offices. And they went for this job interview with this company where they had to walk through like a market area. And so, yes, it was retail and it was food and all of that. But it was like, I didn't like climbing over the cabbages, in order to get to the office. And I thought, oh, okay, I see. And I had another client who was not happy because she didn't have a view of the Harbour Bridge. She had moved from Adelaide to Sydney, and the dream was office overlooking the Harbour Bridge. And she had a very nice corporate office, but it didn't overlook the Harbour Bridge. Then there was a redundancy, and it was, she didn't want to go home to look for another job. She wanted another job in Sydney because she goes, I will have failed myself if I don't get that one dream. And understanding, but she kept self-sabotaging herself, because deep down, when going through all the layers of coaching and peeling it all back, what she really wanted was to go back home, because she missed her friends, her family, and she found Sydney difficult as an adult to make close friends when she first moved. But because she had that fixation on Harbour Bridge, beautiful view, wonderful office, and if I don't get that, I'm going to be a failure. It's sometimes people get fixated on stuff, and you've got to realize what really are your true motivators. And here's an interesting.
It's so fascinating unpacking that, isn't it, with somebody and seeing that what seemed on the surface that it was about the Harbour Bridge and having that view. It wasn't. It was something else that actually wasn't for her.
It was actually about loneliness. And what was interesting was she went to these all these interviews and kept not getting. She was perfectly qualified, but I think she was self-sabotaging. But then when she went back to Adelaide, and I said, take a break, you need to clear your head. She went back to Adelaide and she was applying for jobs down there. I said, you may as well, while you're there. And she found a job that she thought, oh, this sounds pretty good. She got the job offer right away, negotiated, and she goes, Jane, I think I'm not coming back to Sydney. I went, you have let go of what, was a dream for a while, but it really wasn't the important thing. So you've got to think, what's the most important thing for me and for my happiness, and focus on the most important thing rather than all the other stuff that might just be peripheral. I see in the comments here that Sue Elson, Sue, thank you for your comment there. Culture or task? Exactly. Is it a job function that you're hankering after, or is it a certain environment that you're hankering after too?